During the engagement party at a mansion, a millionaire is sent by the fiancée to get something from the car. But when opening the trunk, he finds his old nanny unconscious and protecting two scared twin girls who call him father. The fiancé appears and coldly accuses the woman of kidnapping, even involving the police in the lie. What seemed like a misunderstanding turns into a nightmare, and a hidden letter will reveal a secret that could destroy the whole family. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let us know which city you are watching us from. We continue. I promise this will be the best story you will ever hear in your life. The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the marble floors of the Whitmore estate, their light reflecting off champagne glasses raised in celebration. Manhattan's elite had gathered for what was supposed to be the social event of the season, the engagement party of Jonathan Whitmore, heir to the Whitmore financial empire, and Victoria Ashford, the stunning socialite whose family name opened doors across 3 continents. The mansion's grand ballroom buzzed with congratulations, laughter, and the subtle undertones of envy that always accompanied gatherings of the extraordinarily wealthy. Jonathan stood near the ornate fireplace, his tailored tuxedo fitting perfectly across his broad shoulders, yet he felt suffocated. He smiled mechanically at well-wishers, his mind elsewhere. Something about tonight felt wrong, though he couldn't articulate what. Victoria glided through the crowd like a swan, her ivory gown trailing behind her, accepting compliments with practiced grace. She was beautiful, poised, everything his mother had always said he should want. So why did his chest tighten every time he looked at her? Victoria appeared at his side, her perfectly manicured hand resting on his arm. Her smile was dazzling, but her eyes held something else, something he'd begun to notice more frequently in recent weeks. Calculation. "Darling," she said, her voice honey-sweet but with an edge of command, "I left my phone in the car. Would you be a dear and fetch it for me? I'm expecting an important call from Daddy about the wedding venue." Jonathan nodded, grateful for an excuse to escape the suffocating atmosphere. "Of course. I'll be right back." The cool October air hit his face as he stepped outside, and he inhaled deeply, loosening his bow tie. The circular driveway was lined with luxury vehicles, their polished surfaces gleaming under the estate's exterior lights. He made his way to Victoria's white Mercedes parked near the fountain. She'd given him the keys earlier, a gesture that had seemed intimate then but now felt strangely possessive. He pressed the key fob, and the trunk popped open with a soft click. What he saw inside made his blood run cold. Huddled in the cramped space were 3 figures: Rosa Martinez, the housekeeper who'd worked for his family for 7 years, and 2 small girls, identical twins with dark curls and wide, terrified eyes. Rosa's uniform was torn at the shoulder, and a bruise was forming along her cheekbone. Blood trickled from a cut on her lip. The children clung to her, their small bodies trembling. "Mr. Jonathan," Rosa gasped, her voice breaking. "Please, please don't let her take them, please." Jonathan's mind reeled. "Rosa, what are you doing in there? What happened to you? Whose children are these?" Rosa tried to climb out, but her movements were weak, pained. One of the twins began to cry softly, a heartbreaking sound that cut through Jonathan's shock. "Mr. Jonathan, you have to listen to me. These girls, they're in danger. Miss Victoria, she's not who you think she is. She's going to hurt them. She's going to hurt everyone." "That's absurd," Jonathan said, but his voice lacked conviction. He reached in to help Rosa out, his hands shaking. "You're injured. We need to get you to a hospital. And these children, where are their parents?" "Their mother," Rosa began, tears streaming down her face. "She's gone. She trusted me to protect them. Your brother, he trusted me too. Mr. Jonathan, these are your nieces." The words hit him like a physical blow. "My nieces? That's impossible. Michael never had children. He never even mentioned—" "He did," Rosa insisted, her grip on his arm desperate. "He kept it secret because he knew what she was capable of." Jonathan's brother Michael had passed away 2 years ago in what everyone called a tragic accident. The grief still felt fresh, the wound still raw. The idea that Michael had children, That he'd kept such a monumental secret seemed impossible. Yet looking at the twins' faces, he saw something familiar in their features, the shape of their eyes, the curve of their chins. They looked like his mother had at that age in the old photographs kept in the family library. "Rosa, this is insane. You're not making sense. We need to get you help and we need to figure out what's going on with these children. But you can't just make accusations about Victoria without proof." "There is proof," Rosa said urgently. "A letter. Your brother wrote it before he left us. It's in my pocket. Please, Mr. Jonathan, read it before you do anything else, before you call anyone, before you tell her." Jonathan's hand moved toward Rosa's pocket, but a voice froze him in place. "Jonathan, what's taking so long?" Victoria stood at the top of the driveway steps, backlit by the mansion's lights, looking like an angel. But as she descended toward them, her expression shifted from curious to alarmed to something else entirely, something cold and sharp. "Victoria, I can explain," Jonathan started, though he had no idea how to explain what he himself didn't understand. Victoria's eyes swept over the scene. The open trunk, Rosa's battered appearance, the frightened children. For a fraction of a second, Jonathan saw something flicker across her face. Recognition. But when she spoke, her voice was filled with perfectly calibrated shock and concern. "Oh my God, Jonathan, step away from her. Those are my nieces. What has she done to them?" Rosa's face went white. No, that's a lie. Mr. Jonathan, don't listen to her." Victoria rushed forward, reaching for the children, but they shrank back, pressing themselves against Rosa. "Sweetheart, it's Aunt Victoria. You're safe now. This woman can't hurt you anymore." "We're not going with you," one of the twins said, her voice small but defiant. "You're the bad lady. Rosa said you're the bad lady." Victoria's mask slipped for just an instant, a flash of fury crossing her features before she composed herself. "The poor darlings are traumatized. Jonathan, call the police immediately. This woman has kidnapped my sister's children." "That's not true," Rosa cried. "Mr. Jonathan, please, the letter. Read the letter." Jonathan felt as if he were drowning. Two women, two completely different stories, and two terrified children caught in the middle. His instinct was to trust Rosa. She'd been part of their household for years, had cared for his ailing father with tenderness and dedication, had never given them a moment's concern. But Victoria's story made a certain logical sense. If these were her nieces, if Rosa had taken them— "Jonathan," Victoria's voice turned sharp. "Are you really going to stand there and debate this? Look at those children. They're clearly in distress. This woman is obviously unstable. Call the police. Now." The word unstable triggered something in Jonathan's memory. Victoria had used that word before, about other people who'd crossed her path. Her former business partner, a journalist who'd written an unflattering article about her family. They'd all been labeled unstable, and they'd all mysteriously faded from public view shortly after. "I'll call them," Jonathan said slowly, pulling out his phone, "but I want to hear Rosa's full explanation first." "There's no time for that," Victoria snapped. "She could have weapons. She could hurt the children further. Jonathan, if you care about me at all, you'll protect my family." Rosa fumbled in her pocket, her hands shaking so badly she could barely grasp the envelope. "Please, just read it. It's all here, everything your brother wanted you to know, everything he was afraid to tell you while he was alive." Jonathan took the envelope, and Victoria's composure finally cracked. "Don't you dare read that. It's probably filled with lies and delusions. Jonathan, I'm warning you." "Warning me?" Jonathan looked at his fiancée, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. "Why would you warn me not to read a letter?" Before Victoria could answer, voices erupted from the mansion. Guests were spilling out onto the driveway, drawn by the commotion. Victoria's expression transformed instantly, tears springing to her eyes as she turned to face the crowd. "Help, someone help. This woman has kidnapped my nieces. She's been hiding in Jonathan's car and she's hurt them." The crowd gasped collectively. Several men rushed forward, and Jonathan found himself pushed aside as they surrounded Rosa and the children. Rosa screamed, trying to shield the twins, but hands pulled her away. The children's cries pierced the night air, desperate and terrified. "Stop!" Jonathan shouted. "Everyone stop! We don't know what's happening here yet." But his voice was lost in the chaos. Someone had already called the police. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Victoria stood among the crowd, accepting comfort from the guests, playing the role of traumatized aunt to perfection. The twins were pulled from the car, and despite their protests, despite their tears, they were handed to Victoria. "No, no, Rosa, Rosa!" they screamed, reaching back toward the housekeeper. Rosa fought against the men holding her, her voice hoarse. "Mr. Jonathan, the letter, read the letter, don't let her win, don't let her take them." Police cars screeched to a halt in the driveway. Officers emerged, and Victoria immediately took control of the narrative. "Officers, thank God you're here. This woman kidnapped my nieces. She's been working in this household, and she used that access to take them. Look at them, they're terrified. And she's assaulted me as well. I have witnesses." "That's not true," Rosa shouted. "She's lying, those children aren't hers. They're Jonathan Whitmore's nieces, his brother's daughters. Check the letter." "Make him read the letter." An officer approached Jonathan. "Sir, are you Jonathan Whitmore?" "Yes," Jonathan said, his mind spinning. "Do you know this woman?" The officer gestured to Rosa. "She's our housekeeper, has been for 7 years." "And did you give her permission to take these children?" Jonathan looked at Rosa, at her desperate, pleading eyes. He looked at the twins, still crying, still reaching for her even as Victoria held them. He looked at Victoria, whose expression was unreadable behind her tears. And he looked at the envelope in his hand, his brother's handwriting scrawled across the front. For Jonathan, the truth about everything. "I don't know," Jonathan said finally. "I don't know what's happening here, but I need time to figure it out." "We don't have time," the officer said. "These children need medical attention and protective custody, and this woman needs to be detained for questioning." "No!" Rosa screamed as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. "Mr. Jonathan, please, read it. Read what your brother wrote. He knew what she was planning. He knew she'd come for them." As the officers led Rosa toward the police car, she twisted back one last time. "The children. Know the truth. Ask them. Ask them who their mother was. Ask them why they're afraid." But the twins couldn't speak through their sobs. Victoria held them close, murmuring soothing words, and to anyone watching, she looked like a loving aunt comforting traumatized children. Only Jonathan noticed how tightly she gripped them, how her fingers dug into their small shoulders, how her whispered words made them flinch. The police car doors slammed shut, and Rosa's face appeared in the window, pale and desperate. The crowd began to disperse, murmuring about the shocking turn of events, about how you never really knew people, about how lucky Victoria was that Jonathan had discovered the kidnapping in time. Victoria approached Jonathan, the twins still in her arms, though they'd gone eerily quiet. "Darling, I'm so sorry you had to witness that. It must have been such a shock. That woman clearly had some kind of psychotic break. We'll need to review all our household staff, make sure something like this never happens again." Jonathan stared at her, the envelope burning in his hand. "These are really your nieces?" "Of course they are. My sister's daughters. I've told you about them, remember? Though we haven't been close. Family complications. But blood is blood, and now that their mother is unable to care for them, they're my responsibility." "Unable to care for them," Jonathan repeated. "What happened to their mother?" Victoria's expression was perfectly sorrowful. "It's tragic, really. She's been unwell for some time. Mental health issues. It runs in families sometimes. That's probably why that woman thought she could get away with taking them. She knew my sister wasn't in a position to fight back." Everything Victoria said sounded reasonable, logical, the kind of explanation that made sense. But Jonathan's instincts screamed that something was wrong. The way the children had recoiled from her, the way Rosa had looked at him with such desperate honesty, the way his brother's letter felt heavy with secrets. "I should take the girls inside," Victoria said. "They need rest and comfort. This has been traumatic for all of us. Perhaps we should postpone the rest of the party." "Yes," Jonathan said distantly. "Yes, that's probably best." Victoria smiled, a small, satisfied curve of her lips. "I knew you'd understand. You always do. That's why I love you, Jonathan. You're so reasonable, so trusting. It's one of your best qualities. As she walked back toward the mansion, the twins looked back at Jonathan over her shoulder. Their eyes were wide and pleading, filled with a terror that children that young shouldn't know. One of them mouthed something, and though no sound came out, Jonathan could read her lips. "Help us." He stood alone in the driveway as the last police car pulled away, as the guests filtered back inside or departed for their own homes, as the servants began cleaning up the disrupted party. The envelope in his hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Jonathan walked to the garden, away from the lights and the people, and sat on a stone bench beneath an old oak tree. His hands shook as he opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. His brother's handwriting, so familiar it made his chest ache, filled 3 pages. "Jonathan," it began, "if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and the danger I feared has come to pass. I'm sorry I never told you the truth while I was alive. I was afraid, and that fear made me a coward. But I can't let that cowardice destroy the people I love, even from beyond the grave. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I swear on everything we hold sacred that every word is true." Jonathan read on, and with each sentence his world shifted. Michael had fallen in love with a woman named Eleanor, a teacher from a modest background. They'd married in secret, knowing the family would never approve. When Eleanor became pregnant with twins, Michael had been overjoyed. But then he'd discovered something about Victoria Ashford, something that made him realize his family was in terrible danger. Victoria wasn't just a socialite seeking a good match. She was a calculating predator who'd been systematically positioning herself to take control of the Whitmore fortune. She'd researched their family, identified Jonathan as the easier target, the one more susceptible to charm and manipulation. But Michael stood in the way of her plans. As the older brother, he was first in line for the inheritance, and his secret family made him vulnerable to blackmail. The letter detailed meetings, threats, incidents that Michael had documented but never reported, fearing for Elena's safety. Then came the final revelation, the one that made Jonathan's blood run cold. Michael believed Victoria had orchestrated the accident that took his life, and he believed she would come for Elena and the children next, eliminating anyone who stood between her and the Whitmore fortune. "I've entrusted Elena and the girls to Rosa Martinez," Michael had written. "She's the only person in that house I know has a good heart. If something happens to me, Rosa will protect them. But Jonathan, you have to wake up. You have to see Victoria for what she is before it's too late. The children are your blood. They're Whitmore's. And they're in danger as long as Victoria Ashford is in our lives. I've hidden documents, evidence of everything I've discovered about her. Rosa knows where they are. Trust her, brother. Trust the children. And please, please don't trust the woman you think you love." The letter ended with coordinates, a location Jonathan didn't recognize, and a final plea. "Save them. Save yourself. And forgive me for not being brave enough to fight this battle while I was alive." Jonathan sat in the darkness, the letter trembling in his hands, and felt his entire reality crumbling around him. Either his brother had been paranoid and delusional in his final days, or Jonathan was engaged to a woman who had orchestrated unspeakable acts and was now holding his nieces hostage in his own home. Inside the mansion, through the lit windows, he could see Victoria moving through the rooms, the twins trailing behind her like small ghosts. As he watched, she bent down to speak to them, and even from this distance, he could see them nod obediently, their earlier defiance crushed. Jonathan's phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "The girls are settled. Come inside, darling. We need to talk about security measures. We can't have any more incidents like tonight." Stared at the message, then at the letter, then back at the mansion where his entire life waited. Every instinct told him to burst through those doors, to confront Victoria, to take the children and run. But Michael's letter had made one thing clear. Victoria was dangerous, calculating, and always 3 steps ahead. If Jonathan moved rashly, if he showed his hand too soon, he could lose everything, including the children. He needed proof. He needed allies. He needed to be as calculating as she was. And most urgently, he needed to get Rosa out of police custody before Victoria's influence made that impossible. Jonathan stood, folding the letter carefully and placing it in his inner jacket pocket, close to his heart. He walked back toward the mansion, his mind already working through possibilities, through plans, through the dangerous game he was about to play. As he climbed the steps, he caught his reflection in the glass doors. He looked the same as he had hours ago, but everything had changed. He was no longer the trusting heir, the easy mark, the man who believed the best of everyone. He was a man who'd just learned that the woman he'd planned to marry might have taken his brother from him. A man who'd just discovered he had nieces who needed him. A man who was about to wage a war he never wanted, in a world he thought he understood. Jonathan pushed open the doors and stepped inside, his expression carefully neutral. Victoria appeared in the hallway, beautiful and deadly as a viper, smiling at him with perfect affection. "There you are," she said. "I was getting worried. Are you all right? You look pale." "I'm fine," Jonathan lied, and the ease with which the deception came surprised him. "Just processing. Everything. It's been quite a night." "It has," Victoria agreed, linking her arm through his. "But we'll get through it together. We always do. Now come, let's discuss our next steps. We have so much to plan." As she led him deeper into the house, Jonathan felt the letter against his chest like a talisman. His brother's words echoed in his mind. "Don't trust the woman you think you love." The game had begun, and Jonathan Whitmore was finally awake. Jonathan spent the next 72 hours playing a dangerous game. He smiled at Victoria, discussed wedding plans, all while his mind raced with strategies to expose her and save his nieces. Every moment with the twins revealed more of their fear. They were obedient, eerily so, their earlier spirit crushed under Victoria's control. Rosa remained in custody, denied bail. Jonathan's attempts to visit her were blocked at every turn. Victoria's connections ran deep, and doors that should have been open to a Whitmore remained mysteriously closed. Jonathan reached out to Marcus Chen, his brother's closest friend, and a lawyer specializing in family law. When he showed Marcus the letter, his friend's expression turned grim. "I always wondered about Michael's accident," Marcus said quietly. "He'd called me the week before, said he needed to update his will. He never made it to that appointment." The coordinates in Michael's letter led to a storage unit containing boxes of documents, financial records showing Victoria's family was bankrupt, evidence of previous relationships with wealthy men who'd suffered mysterious ruin, and a private investigator's report detailing Victoria's real background. She wasn't Victoria Ashford, she was Victoria Brennan, daughter of a con artist. She'd stolen a dead cousin's identity and inserted herself into high society with meticulous planning. The Whitmore fortune was her retirement plan, the big score that would set her up for life. Jonathan hired child psychologist Dr. Sarah Mitchell under the guise of helping the twins process trauma. Victoria approved, seeing it as appropriate concern, but Dr. Mitchell's real purpose was documenting the children's true story. In sessions away from Victoria's eyes, the twins slowly opened up. Their names were Emma and Lily. Their mother Eleanor had been wonderful and kind. Rosa had been like a grandmother. Their father, Daddy Mike, had loved them deeply. "Mommy got sick after Daddy Mike left," Emma told Dr. Mitchell. "The bad lady came. She said she was Mommy's friend, but Mommy was scared. Mommy told Rosa to hide us to find Uncle Jonathan, but the bad lady found us first." The recordings were heartbreaking and damning. When asked to draw Victoria, both girls used dark colors and drew her with sharp teeth and claws. Meanwhile, Jonathan played his role perfectly, attending galas with Victoria, smiling for photographers, but he noticed cracks in her facade. She was impatient with the twins when alone, her voice sharp and cold. She pushed hard for a quick wedding, moving the date up 3 months. The breakthrough came from Corrections Officer James Rodriguez, assigned to Rosa's cell block. He'd seen Victoria visit the prison through back channels, arranging for Rosa to be placed with dangerous inmates. Rosa had been assaulted twice. "She's trying to silence her," James said. "I didn't become an officer to watch innocent people get hurt." James smuggled letters between Rosa and the twins. Rosa's letter contained crucial information. She'd been with Eleanor when she passed from a sudden illness doctors couldn't explain. The symptoms were consistent with poisoning, but by the time Rosa requested an autopsy, the body had been cremated per family wishes Eleanor never expressed. Victoria had been there making decisions, controlling access, erasing evidence. Marcus filed an emergency motion for DNA testing. Victoria's lawyers fought viciously, but a sympathetic judge granted it. The results came back definitive. Emma and Lily were Michael Whitmore's daughters, Jonathan's nieces, his blood. Victoria's claim was exposed as complete fabrication. Victoria immediately pivoted, claiming she'd been deceived herself, that she was a victim too. Her lawyers argued that removing the children from her care would be traumatic. Then Emma drew a house with a red door and Rose Garden in her therapy session. The place where Mommy had been sick, where the bad lady had come. Marcus tracked down the address. The new owners had kept items from the attic, including Elena's journal. The entries were devastating. Elena wrote about feeling ill, about Victoria appearing as a distant relative offering help, about growing suspicion her food was tampered with, about desperate attempts to contact Jonathan that never connected. The final entry, in shaky handwriting, read, "I know now what's happening. Victoria wants the girls, wants to use them for the Whitmore fortune. I've told Rosa everything. If I don't survive, Rosa will take Emma and Lily to Jonathan. He's good. Like Michael was, he'll protect them. I won't let her win. I won't let her take my babies." With Elena's journal, Rosa's testimony, DNA results, Dr. Mitchell's evaluations, and Michael's evidence, Marcus went to the FBI. The investigation moved quickly. Victoria's fake identity unraveled. Her real background emerged, a string of wealthy men who'd been involved with her, all suffering financial losses or worse. The pattern was undeniable. Federal agents arrived at the mansion with an arrest warrant, while Victoria hosted a tea party for the twins. The image of her being led away in handcuffs made front-page news. The trial was sensational. The recordings of the twins' testimony left jurors in tears. Rosa was released and exonerated. The reunion with the twins was joyful and tearful. The verdict, guilty on all major charges. Victoria Brennan was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Jonathan was awarded full guardianship, with Rosa officially hired as their nanny. The twins nodded enthusiastically when the judge asked if they were happy. "Uncle Jonathan reads us stories," Lily said, "and Rosa makes the best cookies. And we're not scared anymore," Emma added quietly. "The bad lady is gone." Months passed. The mansion transformed into a proper home filled with children's laughter. Jonathan established a foundation in Michael and Elena's names, supporting children who'd lost parents. Then came one final revelation. Margaret Whitmore found papers in the family vault. Elena had been Margaret's own niece, daughter of her estranged half-brother. Emma and Lily were Margaret's granddaughters by blood on both sides, doubly connected to the Whitmore family. The family held a private ceremony, officially welcoming Emma and Lily. Margaret placed heirloom necklaces around each girl's neck. "You are Whitmores," Margaret said. "You are loved, you are protected, and you are home." A year later, the mansion was filled with warmth and life. Emma and Lily thrived, attending school, taking lessons, making friends. On the anniversary of finding them, Jonathan took the girls to visit Elena's grave, now beside Michael's in the family cemetery. "Do you think they can see us?" Lily asked. "I think they can," Jonathan said, kneeling. "And I think they're proud of how brave you've been." That evening, Jonathan looked at Michael's photograph. "I've got them, Michael. Your girls are safe, they're loved, they're home." Justice had prevailed. The innocent were protected, the guilty punished, and a family torn apart had been restored by love and courage.